This is my post vise, and I noticed that this nut was getting loose, and it doesn't really want to tighten down, so I figured I'd take a look. Bear with me. Yeah. It's not good. So we need to make another one. So I took everything apart. Just a standard nut with square threads. This is pretty old, it's all wrought iron. And this bolt, kind of upset on one end, and it has this little keeper tab that has mushroomed over. And it goes from 3/4 on the shank to about 5/8. So I'm going to replace this with a 5/8 11 thread. If you look over here, there are 2 plates on either side of the back leg. And this is a 3/8 hole with a little 1/2-inch square keeper. That's the nub on the bolt back there. The hole through here and the hole through the other plate are about 5/8. So this bolt just needs to be 3/4 here, a little nub, some sort of head, and then 5/8 for the rest of it. This is going to be a 5/8 11 nut that I'll remake, and I already made the bolster for making this bolt. So I figured I would just swedge the whole thing in, have a 3/4 hole punched in here. This is just a piece of mild steel, and I'm going to use a cape chisel to cut out between those little nicks to make that square end, and then we'll just file it to fit. So I've got my bolster set up in the vise, and I just want to cut this channel where the metal can flow in so that the bolt will lock into the vise body. And I'm using a cape chisel, or a cow mouth chisel that I've made. Just a regular cold chisel. And the defining feature about this is that the body of the chisel here is more narrow than the cutting surface, the bit. And there's a little bit of metal here left to sharpen, but this basically means that this section won't drag in the metal, only these 2 sides will drag in the metal. So it just reduces the friction, the cutting friction, makes it easier to cut. And this is the way keyways used to be cut for a long, long time. The body here in this dimension is wider, just to give it that stability because this is so thin. These chisels get abused, so it's good to have that extra strength right there. So it's hard to see. I'll try to get you in as close as I can, but all I'm just going to do is like a regular cold chisel, cut right straight through there, and make that keyway. We'll see what that looks like. So I think I can bring you in here. Now if you look, see those 2 lines going down there? That means the chisel is only cutting, on its corners. And so as it gets deeper, it'll start cutting more and more. But the whole point right now of this first pass is just to make sure the corners are going in straight and where I want them. And then it just cuts, as deep as it wants. And you just go to your required depth. Go slow and keep it controlled and use a light hammer, and it goes quicker than you think. So I just clean this up with a, I think it's called a 3-square file, it used to be. Now I just call them triangular files, because duh. But yeah, there we go. It only has to be good on the one side. Like the bottom side, the hole got drifted weird and it's not fully cut to full depth, but it doesn't matter. Because I only really need this side to look good and make the root good. You know, the key doesn't have to be, the key doesn't have to be super long. Let me show you what it looks like on the vise. Problem is I have to take this apart, or take the pin out every time I want to show you, or look at it. But every time I want to use the vise, I gotta put the pin back in. So, there you go. It's under a little bit of tension, just because of the spring in there. So, bring you around, fight with my tripod, and can you see that? So, you know, not perfect, but I think it'll work. You know, if the bolt comes out with a bigger key than it fits in here, I can just file it down. It doesn't need to be much. All it needs to do is really just prevent the bolt from twisting as you tighten the nut on the other side. Not critical, but you know, I want to make it as close to the original as possible. Got a nice fire going. I'm going to use this piece of 4140. It's a drift, but it's kind of bent, so it's not really good for anything. And this big diameter, I think it's like an inch, inch and a quarter, something like that. That should give us enough meat for the head of the bolt. So I'm just going to throw this in, and we'll meet over at the hydraulic press. Okay, so got the little tab there. I got some black marker on here. I'm just doing the last stages of fitting before I get this 5/8 section fully down. I gotta cut that off, or it's split. And yeah, so what I'm doing is I'm just fitting that in there, pretty close. I'm just gonna give it a little tap home. I can use the bolster for that. Right. And then back it out. And then all we do is look for the shiny spot where the marker wore away. So I follow that down, rinse and repeat. Pretty easy. And it looks a little rough, but hey, so does the original. Looks rougher, so this should last a while. Might turn it down the lathe, I might not. Depends on where I can grab this thing. So okay, so it's been a few weeks since we last spoke, and this was the die that a friend loaned me, 5/8 11. That's what I'm gonna tap the pin that we just finished up. In your time, in my time, it was weeks ago. And this is one I just ordered. And the reason I had to order this is because left-hand thread. He had no idea it was in his box of right-handed taps and dies. So I got the right-handed version from China. Came in like, I don't know, 2-3 weeks, pretty quick. So I'm just going to put this in the die stock and I'll tap it. And I just wanted to tell you that story for whatever reason. What a pain in the butt. Got some nice threads. Great. Cool. Let's install it. Just before we do, you can always tell this is a forged product because it's got a low spot. Those threads aren't fully formed, but it's got plenty of meat over here, and the nut is just for retention, so it's not a big deal. Yeah, let's one final look at the part before I install it. One sec. And that is the swage that I used to form it. A little piece of metal goes in there. That's just cut out with a chisel. Okay, let's get to the good part. I'm just going to let some tension off. Barely threads on there. Get a hammer. There we go. And just there. Good as new. And so here are the old parts one more time. See how that piece is completely obliterated off. So this was allowed to spin, so you can't really tighten this very well. And the threads are in pretty bad shape, as you can see. And they're completely worn out. So this is probably some good wrought iron. I'll save this, I'll reuse this, and it's got a new replacement part. This is a vise, by the way, just because the video's over now. This is a vise where I've replaced a couple of parts. I've replaced the spring, the wedges in here, and now this. So it's I'm kind of making the vise my own as I replace parts. It's sort of the vise of Theseus, I guess. Anyway, thanks for following along. I know it was a kind of a quick video, but in case you wanted to replace one of these, this is how I went about it and how you might go about it. Thanks for watching.